Chapter 17. The Explorers. All of us want to find out about new things and places. We have a desire to explore. During the time of the early humans, people looked for new places where they could find food, or they looked for new places when others captured their lands. This is how humans spread out all over the world. In some people, the desire to explore new lands was so great that they set out for distant lands even at the cost of great danger to themselves. Some did this for personal thrill, while others for seeking wealth and fame. Still others wanted to discover new trade routes. Some even wanted to discover new lands for their kings to capture. Many explorers of the ancient world traveled by sea. Prominent among them were Christopher Columbus, Ferdinand Magellan, Bartholomew Diaz, and Vasco da Gama. Marco Polo traveled by sea as well as land. Let us study about the voyage of these famous explorers. Christopher Columbus was born in Italy in the year 1451. During his time, goods from Asia were brought to Europe through a dangerous land route. They were therefore scarce and expensive. People were trying to find a sea route to China, Japan, and India by sailing eastwards. Columbus knew that the earth was round and thought that the easiest way to reach Asia would be to sail westwards. He drew up a plan and asked the King and Queen of Spain for help. They agreed, and he set sail with 3 ships, Santa Maria, Nina, and Pinta, on August 3, 1492. For weeks they did not sight any land, and the sailors were ready to rebel. However, Columbus carried on and finally sighted land on October 12, 1492. He landed on an island in the Bahamas. The people there were friendly and helpful. Columbus thought that he had reached an island near India and called the people Red Indians. He had actually reached islands near the American mainland. He visited several other islands. On January 16, 1493, he started his return journey to Spain and was hailed as a hero. Columbus made 3 more trips to the New World. He set foot on the mainland of South America on his second trip. The discovery of America by Columbus opened a new chapter in history. It was followed by the spread of Western civilization to a new world. A large number of people from Europe came to this new land and colonized it. However, the native dwellers of America, whose culture was thousands of years old, suffered a lot. Their culture was almost completely wiped out. Columbus had landed in America by accident. Till his death he believed that he had reached Asia. Even though Columbus was mistaken, he is still considered to be one of the greatest explorers. Ferdinand Magellan. Magellan was a Portuguese sailor and explorer who was the first to discover a route by which ships could sail a complete circle around the world. He was able to prove by his explorations that the earth is round. Magellan believed that he could reach Asia by sailing around America. He approached King Carlos of Spain and with his help set sail in 1519 with 5 small ships. He sailed across the Atlantic Ocean. He reached the narrow sea passage called a strait on the trip of South America, which is called the Strait of Magellan after him. He battled against bad weather on the long journey through the strait, which took over a month. He then emerged into calm, clean water, which he named the Pacific Peaceful Ocean. 16 weeks later, they reached the island of Guam and then the Philippines. Thus Magellan achieved his aim of finding a route to Asia by sailing westwards. Magellan died shortly after reaching Philippines. After his death, one of the ships completed the voyage around the world and returned to Spain in 1522. By his voyage, not only did Magellan prove that the earth is round, but he also opened the Pacific Ocean to new exploration and trade. His trip ranks as one of the greatest feats of sailing ever performed. Bartholomew Diaz. Bartholomew Diaz was a knight at the court of the Portuguese King John II. He became the first European sailor to sail to the Cape of Good Hope on the southern tip of Africa. He thus helped to find the sea route from Europe to Asia by traveling eastwards. In 1487, King John II chose him to lead an expedition to sail as far as possible along the west coast of Africa. He set sail in August 1487 with 3 ships. After a difficult journey full of storms, he reached the southernmost tip of Africa and called it Cape of Storms. King John II later changed the name to Cape of Good Hope. Vasco da Gama. The task of finding the eastward route to India beyond Africa that Bartholomew Diaz had begun was completed by Vasco da Gama. In fact, Diaz supervised the building of Vasco da Gama's ships. Vasco da Gama was born in Portugal around 1460 after Christopher Columbus had failed to find the westward route to India. He was chosen by the King of Portugal to lead a voyage around the Cape of Good Hope to India. He sailed on July 8, 1497 with 4 ships. He reached the Cape of Good Hope after 3 months. A few days later, they rounded the Cape of Good Hope and sailed on to reach Calicut in India in May 1498. He had discovered the route to India. Vasco da Gama made 2 more voyages to India. He died in India. His voyages brought immense wealth to Portugal. Portugal became an important power in Europe because it controlled the route to India. Marco Polo. Marco Polo was an Italian merchant who traveled to China and stayed there for many years. He wrote a book about his life in China, which inspired many explorers. Marco Polo was born about 1254 in Italy. In 1271, he set off with his father and uncle for China. They covered the initial journey up to Turkey by ship and then took the land route. After a long journey of almost 4 years, they reached China. Emperor Kublai Khan of China received them warmly. Marco Polo became a civil servant in Kublai Khan's court. He was sent on missions to India, Burma now Myanmar, and Sri Lanka. Marco Polo returned to Italy 24 years after he had left. He took the sea route